with the quite overwhelming response that I got about the video where I talked about industry fragrance clones and reboots and reimaginings, it got me thinking. Maybe there are some fragrances that could do with a bigger budget, a reboot, and a more niche approach. Some designer fragrances that I love that could have niche clones, or rather niche reinterpretations, reimaginings, reboots. I thought that would be quite interesting. So here are 7 hypothetical designer fragrances that deserve niche reboots. Number 7, Givenchy Gentleman Cologne. Givenchy Gentleman Cologne has probably got one of the greatest designer openings of the past 5 years. Probably one of the greatest woody citrus fragrance openings of the past 10. But then it just sort of leaves, and you want so much more. It makes promises that it simply cannot keep. And that amazing citrus and vetiver is just so highly developed and worldly wise to then just be dropped on your head with a very blasé dry down. It's disappointing, to say the least. So I think it needs a niche budget. And honestly, the more I've thought about it, I think that the crazier you could get with it, the more earthy and natural and nature influenced it could get, the better it might become. Which company could do this? I think my good friend Victor Wong at Zoologist. I pitch to you, Givenchy Gentleman Cologne inspires Zoologist Grass Snake. I feel it could be a mega hit. With all of the green elements and nature, it could both push boundaries but also genuinely be wearable. Who would be the perfumiers? Well, get Olivier Cresp on, because he did do Gentleman Cologne, and he has had an incredible catalogue of critical acclaim. And also get Jean-Claude Ellena. Now fair enough, the bloke is nearly as old as a tortoise's favourite oak tree, and he's sort of retired, but his wealth of knowledge of mixing orange and citruses, and Olivier Cresp's sheer talent for woody citruses, this could be an amazing and beautiful scent. Number 6, Nautica Voyage. Nautica Voyage by master perfumier Maurice Roussel, whose biggest crime is that he once had this moustache and then decided to get rid of it. Mate, what are you doing? Has had an insane fragrance career. Honestly, creating a lot of well-loved fragrances such as Rochesman, Musc Ravageur, and of course, budget cheapie, Nautica Voyage. Now, Voyage is fine, but it's been marred by reformulations and has just basically become quite weak cucumber juice with an aldehydic linen thrown in for good measure. But it could be so much more. It could be amazing and dynamic and great again. Hashtag make Nautica Voyage great again. And what is missing, I think, is ambergris. Expensive ambergris. So I think Creed should do it. Now, fair enough, if Pierre Bourdain had made Nautica Voyage, then we would have probably already had this by now. But jokes aside, Creed employ Maurice Roussel and make a higher-end Nautica Voyage. He did that with Bond No. 9 with New Harlem, basically being the high-budget movie adaptation of the TV series Rocas Man. They were basically the same fragrance, and Maurice Roussel did both. So have Olivier and Maurice just do this beautifully crisp cucumber with the best ambergris that Creed can buy, and maybe pipe up some muted neroli and add some sandalwood to make that linen smell pop. It would be amazing, subtle, beautiful. Fine, you can do the thing where Maurice isn't credited, whatever. Just give him a lot of money, a boatload of money. And to continue the inside joke of fragrances that are copies in Creed's catalogue being called original, call the fragrance Original Water. Nailed it, mate. Number 5, Ferragamo Uomo. I like Ferragamo Uomo a huge amount, but I feel as though that tiramisu thing that people get, I don't quite get it. I feel as because this is a very youthful fragrance, it could have a very bold and adult reboot. Something very sexy, very bold, but it needs to be balanced. So we're talking a sexy coffee and chocolate fragrance that still has that solid wearability and sensible charm. that Lommel has. So I say to you, it's a Tom Ford fragrance. And it's called, very simply, Cacao Cafe. Nailed it. Who do we get? Olivier Guillotin. But you need that cafe, and you need it to be bloody good. Get Prin Lomros. He's a genius. And these two really brilliant minds, I feel that it would just be absolutely amazing. Number 4, Paco Rabanne, Pure XS. I have a bottle of Pure XS. I remember Jeremy saying it smelt like whiskey and coke. I don't know what brand of whiskey and what brand of coke Jeremy has, but it's certainly none that I've ever had. It always reminded me of a certain breakfast cereal.
We'll eat the fruit and fiber whilst we're sitting by the fire, and we talk of our desire for each other. It wasn't what Paco Rabanne intended, but they got it anyway, and now it's here to stay.
Mostly, I consider it to be a wild mess, and yes, I do get the alcohol a little bit, but it's surprisingly bold and pungent, so why don't we up the alcohol content? Get some vanilla in there, get a lot of incense going, and a bit of cinnamon, and we could have a Kilian fragrance. Who would be the perfumier? Well, if we're using cinnamon, alcohol, and making it a crazy beast, it's got to be the Cinnamon King himself, Olivier Pechot. He's worked on fragrances such as 1 Million, Herod, made many of the duettos, which are very, very hard-hitting. He could pull this off, but he can't do this alone. Enter Sidonie Lancasseur, who has done some of the greatest by Kilians of all time, such as Apple Brandy, Straight to Heaven, and Black Phantom. What do we call this fragrance? Something Kilian, definitely. Something pretentious. It has the alcohol, it has all of these incredible, vibrant things. What about A Toast to the Fire of the Soul by Kilian? Brilliant. Don't tell me that they wouldn't name something like that. Number 3, Jean-Paul Gaultier's Lommel. Let's all be honest, Lommel ain't what it used to be. The earthy lavender, caramelized vanilla, and abrasive mint has been faded over time to something that is more like vanilla ice cream with lavender and mint hundreds of thousands. Still pleasant, yes, but the strength and boldness has gone. But who could possibly remake this? Who would have the know-how, the intelligence, the experience to do a niche reboot of Lommel? Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Maison Francis Kurkdjian remakes Lommel in his own vision, in his own brand. No restricting brief. I think that there would be something quite poetic about it. A letter to his youth, to his first ever fully recognised creation. It would be interesting to see what Francis now, in his early 50s, would make of the original formula. I'd want to see what a more worldly wise Lommel would smell like. In fact, so much so you could call it Le Meteorite. Beautiful. Number 2, Angel Men Ultra Zest. Ultra Zest, I feel, is one of the most underrated scents of the modern era. I love it. I loved wearing it. I love the orange and the vanilla combination, something I've experienced, yes, with other fragrances, such as Allure Sport and even Clinique Happy. I cannot tell you how lucky I feel that I've still got a bottle of this. One of its most defining factors is that it smells like cookie dough. Cookie dough with vanilla orange ice cream. It's amazing. Unfortunately, when they said limited edition, they weren't lying, and it disappeared almost as soon as it appeared, and then they made Crypto Mint, which sounds like a Superman endorsed green bubblegum. What if we were to take that cookie dough element very seriously, capitalise on it, and make a beautifully flowery baked orange dessert that's high quality and warm and just amazing? I would pick for the job Xerjoff. I'd pick 2 people to perfume it. First is obvious, Jacques Huselier. He's the king of Angel Men, and he created the original formula. and contributing to its many flankers, and just give them a big paycheck and he'll love it. But I would want someone who could really fine-tune that orange. For that, I'd get Nathalie Feist-Her. She's done a lot with citrus, and she even created one of my personal favourites, Eau de Marveille by Hermès. The way that she was able to bend the orange around the more spicier notes to create this almost licorice orange vanilla smell, I mean, you gotta do it. You gotta go for it. What would we call it? Xerjoff Anteros. Why Anteros? Because Anteros was the god of requited love, literally love returned or counter love, and also the punisher of those who scorn love and the advances of others and the avenger. It's just something Xerjoff would call their fragrance, one of their fragrances, let's just be honest. And finally, number 1, Angel Men Pure Malt. Okay. I'm so excited. I need this. I want this. I need it. I can just see it. I can just see it so clearly. Right, okay. So I love and adore Angel Men Pure Malt. But I have smelt the recent formulation. It has certainly got weaker. And I genuinely feel, as someone who is a fan of single malts, it could still go further, even in its best formulation. There's a single malt called Isle of Arran malt. Now, if you want to go further, and I do, go for the Arran malt port cask finish, which is almost as delicious as this image of Becky Lynch. George, can you go one of these videos without mentioning Becky Lynch? No. Anyway, who would do this? I've got this. I know who could do this. I know who could pull this off. Imaginary authors. Yes, Josh Sodding Meyer. This magnificent, handsome #lad right here. I know he can do it. You can go the whole 9 yards. You call it the Royal Mile, which is the most famous street in Edinburgh, filled with pubs and whiskey shops, and it's one of the best places on earth. And you do the design and the whole trimmings with the imaginary author's bottle, and the author would be an older Scotsman who writes murder mysteries in Edinburgh, present day, about Edinburgh in the 19th century, and more importantly, in and around the Royal Mile. His books would explore the history of the city and all that good stuff. And this author, after a long day of writing, would go down to the pubs, he'd relax, or even get inspiration there, chat with his friends, and have a wee dram of single malt whiskey. Done. Josh, mate, give me a call. And so that was it. That was my list of designer fragrances that I feel could do with a niche reinterpretation reboot. I wouldn't want them to be complete clones, of course. I would want them to be more sort of like what Killian did with Intoxicated with Angel Men. They recreated it in their own image. I think that it's something that can be done very, very well. Anyway, what designer fragrances do you feel should have a niche reboot? Let me know down below in the comments. If you enjoyed this content and you want to see more, please give us a subscribe. I'm the Fragrance Press. I'll see you soon.